TED conference this year, the organisers decided they were going to invite guests from around the world. They had this big sort of talent search. It was like The Voice for TED, and they went around the world. And the Sydney one, so after last year's TEDxSydney, there was a second day of people auditioning to go to the TED in the United States. And Remo had sent an email to me on about the Monday saying there's still a few spots left.
Yeah.
Do you know anyone we should invite along this Sunday to do the TED thing? And I sort of thought about it for a couple of days, and I think on the Wednesday emailed him back and said, I'll have a chat if you want. And he said, what about it? So I'll talk about numbers if you want. And so then on the Thursday, put together a couple of slides, turned up on the Sunday, told a few jokes about numbers, and they obviously just sort of went, seals. That was a joke about The Voice. Whew, tough crowd. Okay, let's move on. And from there invited me to go across to the States earlier this year, end of Feb, early March.
So what happened then? What talk did you give then?
I went to the States and gave an 18-minute version of the 6-minute talk I'd given in Sydney last year. And basically what I talked about was discovering massive prime numbers. So the essence of my 18-minute talk in about 40 seconds, I disarmed them with a little bit of Australian humour. That's me having pissed my pants on Santa's lap at my dad's work Christmas party in 1974. They loved that sort of stuff. Big on urine jokes at TED, as it turns out. And I basically, here's a 30-second summary of the talk, ran through prime numbers. Remember a prime number? 6 isn't prime because it's 2 times 3, yeah? 7 is prime because you can write it as 1 times 7, but you can't break it down into anything smaller than that. You're still with me? Good. I went hunting for monster primes. 2 to the power of a prime number. So you multiply all these 2s together and take away 1. Hang in there, we're almost there. 2 to the power of 127. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 127 times. And take away 1 is this beast of a number here. It's 39 digits long. A mathematician called Lucas showed that it was prime in 1876. Well done him. But then the computers take over and we find massively large prime numbers. And what was gorgeous was the talk that I gave last year in Sydney explained the largest prime number we then knew. It had been sitting around for about 4 years. It had held the record. About 3 weeks before I went to the States, they found another one. I had to send Ted a new slide. I was so excited. That's it. 2 to the power of 57,885,161. Take away 1. You get a number that's 17.5 million digits long. To try and understand that, your Harry Potter books, right?
Yes.
If you were typing it out like a Harry Potter novel, the Harry Potter novels are get about that big, yeah? Because she was faffing around a bit near the end and really going on a bit for mine. If you type this number out, it would run about 1.5 times the length of the Harry Potter novels, and we know it's prime as confidently as we know the number 7 is prime. That's what I spoke about.
And the crowd absolutely roared. Can you believe it? When that number came up. I mean, that's the...
It was really cute. My wife was sitting there watching me give the talk, and she was really nervous, and it was going all right. Early on, about 3 minutes in, I said, so today we're going to talk about prime numbers. And I swear Mel heard someone behind her say, booyah! And that's when she said to me afterwards, that's when I realised my boy was going to be fine here. I was in...
And so did the rest of us in the audience, the Australians in the audience. Because I saw Adam hanging around before and he was really cool before. You were Mr. Cool.
I was talking on the 3rd day, just before lunch. It's the same spot that Bono had spoken in on the first day. So I was in the Bono spot, or as I like to say, Bono had spoken in the Adam spot on day 1. And, yeah, so I didn't even go and watch anyone else in my session. I was just staying at the back trying to keep down by, but not sort of play the grand final before you walked out.
Now, who did you meet there? Because everywhere you went, you bumped into someone.
Madness.
And it was amazing. People that were just famous. And you'd suddenly think, oh, God, that was a famous person.
The TED thing in the States is incredible. It goes for 4 days. People pay $7,500 to go to it. Yeah. It is just jam-packed. And you bump into... That's a guy called Taylor Wilson. He's 18. At the age of 14, he created nuclear fusion in his own garage and is now designing nuclear fission models that can power the world cheaply. That's Rod Brooks, the Australian hero, the godfather of robotics, one of the great roboticists in the world. That's Danny Hillis, who is creating... he was the first supercomputer guy, just a hero of computing. That's Bono.
Now, can we stop there for a sec?
Sure.
What was it like meeting Bono?
It's really funny. That room you can just see over my shoulder. So that's where we come in on the Monday and just sort out our slides, make sure everything's fine. And I'm in there, literally in that room. It's about the size of where we're sitting here in a square with 2 very sweaty tech guys who haven't left that room for a couple of days beforehand. It's getting pretty whiffy. And they said, let's run through your slides. I said, give me a second, I'll go to the bathroom. I left the room. I came back and I'd been gone a minute tops. There were 11 people in the room because Team Bono had arrived, right? And everyone's on Bono alert and it's all really exciting. But he gave his talk, but he had someone else doing his slides and all that. So all the tech guys were talking and Bono was just sitting there. And he and I just chatted for about 10 minutes and had a lovely chat.
What did you talk to him about?
He talked about one of his slides. He said, is this our data or have we borrowed this from someone else? Have we stolen it from someone else? And I said, mate, it's just a cover song, don't panic. And we got on famously, talked about World Aid. I didn't mention that I'm not a massive fan of his music, but he was talking about reducing the number of people in endemic poverty in the world to 0 in the next 20 years.
I know, it was a great talk.
It was an amazing talk. That's my wife meeting Bono the next night. She was pretty happy with that. That's the stage at TED. This is the photo taken the night before. I went and watched the day before, then walked out on the stage and just stood there for about 10 minutes. I always, before I talk somewhere, love to stand on the stage and you just check out a few of the eye lines and you just sort of let things roll through your head a bit. It was this massive sort of pirate ship extravaganza. That's Al Gore, who said he liked my talk. This is just after which is nice of him, this is just after I've given the talk, so I'm completely buzzed. My favourite non-photo from the week at TED, a couple of days before this, I saw Cameron Diaz, right? And she loves the TED, so I walk over to Cameron and say, Cameron, how are you going? I'm wearing a badge that says speaker, so you're sort of royalty. Everyone's getting very excited. Cameron, how are you going? Do you mind if I have a photo? She says, no, you can't. She just doesn't do photos with people because they end up in Who magazine, stars with their makeup, all that sort of stuff. I said, I'm giving a talk on prime numbers on Thursday. You've got to come and watch it. She said she would. I've walked out. I've given the talk. It's gone really well. I'm there with Al Gore. I see Cameron Diaz walking past. I go, Cameron, what did you think? Come on. And I swear she looks at me and goes, fuck, I'm so sorry. The traffic was awful. We only just got here. She missed my talk. That's a guy called Ron Finley, an urban gardener in LA.
He was fabulous.
Watch his TED talk. It is unbelievable. That's one of the guys who founded Google, Larry Page. He was pretty nice. That's Matt Groening, who made The Simpsons. He loved my talk because he was even slightly nerdier than me, which was great. That's the Mohawk guy. Remember when you saw the Mars Observer land on and they cut to mission control and there was the guy with the Mohawk? He's the Mohawk guy. Bobak Fadowski. He just knows himself as the Mohawk guy. He's lovely. That's me at TED.
Now, Adam, when is this going to become available? Because we haven't seen it yet. And am I allowed to tell the amazing story?
Yeah, well, it's floated. They don't, with the big US TED, they don't dump all the things online straight away. It's really sweet. They said they're holding mine until the end of their spring break because it's one of their peak times. Last week of August, first week of September, which gives me a couple of months. I'm trying to work out this worldwide Twitter strategy of everyone I've got any vague connection with to sort of tweet. I want everyone to tweet, if you watch one maths lesson in your life, make it this. And I want to try and get 2 million people to watch it on the TED site.
Now, what was really amazing, when the first couple of days at TED, everyone was standing up and cheering. There's standing ovations happening all over the place. And then Chris Anderson, who's the head honcho of TED, got up one morning and said, you really don't have to stand up. Only stand up if you really feel that person needs or you want to give that person your standing ovation. Don't just follow the person sitting next to you, just, do it. So, okay, everyone was a little bit cool for a little while. Not everybody stood up and sort of reasonableness entered into the space because you felt pressured to stand up all the time. Anyhow, Adam comes on and... And it was pretty amazing after he'd given his prime number and, everybody had sort of cheered and carried on. And after the 18 minutes, you really had them eating out of your hands because there was the most amazing standing
Look at that pornography in the background. Look, how hot is that? As Frank Nelson
the crowd just stood up and they clapped and they cheered and I don't know what was going through your mind, Adam.
I knew it had gone pretty well. I got about halfway through and thought this is going pretty much the way I wanted it. I didn't miss a word. It's one of the best 2 or 3 speeches I've given in my life. I was really, really happy with it. And it was funny because Chris had said that and the room had been a little bit subdued for most of that session as a result because people thought they might get in trouble if they stood up after a talk. And so this is the way I tell you, got that big slide screen over your shoulder. That's me running through the record of highest primes as they stood over time. And then we bring it all down, and I think there's a tiny bit at the end of that if you want to roll again, mate, or that might be the only bit they've got. But trust me, people stood up.
Well, I was there. I saw it, and it was the most amazing ovation I think I've ever seen.
Oh, thank
Adam.
you.
It was amazing to see it come from one of our people that started here at TED. So, look, has anyone got a question? Because Adam is just go for it. We've got to get a microphone to you.
Hi, Adam. I was at TED Active enjoying your talk live when it happened,
Oh,
so
great.
it was totally awesome. I concur with
Thank
everything
you.
said. I have a really stupid question, which is, why can you not just take 2 to the power of the new monster you just found and subtract 1?
Great question. Not every time you go 2 to a prime power, minus 1, do you get a prime. So 2 to the 7 minus 1, 127, that's prime. 2 to the 5 minus 1, 31, that's prime. 2 to the 11 minus 1 is 2,047, and you don't need me to tell you that's 23 times 89. So it doesn't always work. In fact, that one we found, that's only about, I think that's only the 48th such prime that we found. Yeah.
And that was the most amazing moment outside of your ovation, that reveal. Now, any other questions? Because this is a chance to ask the man who really knows how to nail the best TED Talk that's available.
The big secret, I was very lucky. I was given 18 minutes, which was very flattering.
Yes.
So I wrote a 15-minute speech.
Yes.
Because the number of people, and I understand if you're at the big one and you've only got 4 minutes, you're going to try and write a 10-minute speech and cram it in, but the number of people who tried to write 22-minute speeches and just force it into the suitcase, and they were so nervous and stressed, and the feeling was, if I miss one slide, I'm rooted. Oh no, and they just panic. And I had a 15-minute talk, so I changed a couple of things that morning of it.
Yeah.
I made up one thing on the spot while I was on the stage. I did not feel any time pressure. So the secret, if you ever talk here or anywhere else, if you've got 18 minutes, write a 15-minute speech, and don't put yourself under the sort of stress that, you know, some people were just freaking out.
That you were under.
Yeah.
Any questions? Peter, microphone. 2 questions, 3 questions.
Well, I'm here, so we'll do this one first, then I'll go off there.
Strategy to remember all that?
Strategies to remember.
Yes.
Yeah. How did you remember 18
My talk.
minutes?
I didn't have it word perfect, but I had it in chunks, and there were certain bits I did want to say word for word, and I just moved to them. I do a fair bit of speaking, so I was pretty lucky. I'm pretty good at remembering that sort of stuff. I hadn't done it to death before I got there. I didn't do it 1,000 times, but I went the night before, stood on the stage and went through it all in my mind and looking at spots in the empty theatre, looking at points, and just had a feeling of the pace of it. There are a few jokes in there I've told before that I sort of had ready to go. I knew they'd be at points that people would laugh, and then we'd go from there, but it came out pretty much the way I wanted to, which was good.
Another question here.
Is there a very big gap between your intelligence and ours? and can it be expressed mathematically? Is number of 2s minus 1? How do you talk us through that, Adam?
Very, very flattering question, but completely misplaced. I'm not. I know countless people who are more intelligent than me. I'm really good at explaining what I do know, and I'm really good at explaining complex ideas in a simple way. There you go. There's people standing up.
Yay.
Often because I don't understand them myself. The stuff that I do with Carl, I have no idea what that's. I would fail the Year 8 chemistry exam. I've never studied any science at any level. But when Carl explains stuff to me, I know what it is that means that I can then understand it. And I tend to be on the wavelength of what other people need to have things explained to them. Like, as I talked about in my TED Talk, there was a point in my life when I'm doing a PhD in mathematics at university, and it's not really going that well. And I won a Triple J comedy competition and got the chance to go and be on radio. And I thought about it, and I had the realisation that in a room of randomly selected people, I'm a maths genius. In a room of maths PhDs, I'm as dumb as a box of hammers. Right? And I realised, but my gift is the ability to explain what really smart people do.
There was another question in here somewhere. I saw some hands going up. But Adam, what are you going to do now? I mean, is this it? Could this be the ultimate thing in life? Where do you go to from here?
It's really weird because there's quite a few months before it goes online, and it might fizzle and no one might watch it, but a lot of people are saying, look, that talk, once it goes online, it's going to get quite weird for you. You'll get people saying, look, we're having this conference in Scandinavia, can you come and visit? Can you come and talk at our school in Mexico? And things like that. So I've got to brace myself for that. Where it goes with that, I don't know. I spoke to the guys from YouTube. I was thinking of starting a little YouTube channel.
Yeah, what would you do?
The thing that popped into my head was you go on the channel each day on whatever date of the month it is. So on the 17th, here's some stuff about the number 17. And just stuff about numbers and mathematics. I wrote a book once on the numbers 1 to 100 and the mathematical properties of them. And wouldn't mind getting a bit out there. And, you know, and just continuing the lingerie modelling and all that sort of stuff that I
Now, what are you going to do with your encounter with Cameron Diaz?
I do want, if there's one thing, I'd love to know that she did see the talk. The only time I'm going to lean back on the TED people who must have her details are, can you just send her this email saying you promised you'd see the talk, you didn't, I understand that, you're busy, click on this link right now and have a look, please.
Couldn't you ask her to host your YouTube show?
Mate, if Cameron, give me a call.
If anyone knows Cameron Diaz's, private number or anything, we're here to take it.
It was the most lovely brush-off for someone who was basically saying, go away, you weird, wonky-eyed guy. You can't have a photo with me. She was absolutely lovely.
I ran into her too, and I didn't realise it was her.
Like it's weird. Goldie Hawn was there. Paul Simon was there. It's a very sort
Sergey Brin was there.
It's a very sort of cult thing amongst your sort of American celebrity, world-aware, slightly lefty American celebs.
Except you didn't really know it was them till just that second afterwards, and you realised that there they were, dressed down like all of us, no makeup, no nothing. It was really the most amazing experience. But now that you've got this, really refined talk, and I think it is, it's really, would you call it a refined? I mean, it's like ultimate talk. You couldn't get the talk better. Or could you?
No, it's pretty solid.
Yeah. So, Adam, I love your modesty. But look, really, I mean, the thing is, I heard you say you could take this, not only to a television channel, but you really thought that you could start making movies and bring some of these ideas to life and reach a new audience. Because part of what you haven't really fully explained yet is that it's all about the audience and who you can reach and the large numbers of people that you haven't yet met. And this opportunity is opening these kinds of doors. What is that all about? What do you think a larger audience is going to bring? What do you want from that?
The phrase that I used in my talk is, for me, numbers are the musical notes with which the symphony of the universe is written. I love numbers. I love how they're everywhere. I love the way that mathematics and numbers and physics underpin everything that's going on around us. As many people as I could preach that to, I'd be really happy.
So how are you going to start doing that?
I don't know.
Has anyone got any ideas? Speak at 10. Well, again...
Done that. Tick.
No, I mean, there's so many opportunities in the world now. So, I mean, do you want to reach Americans? Do you want to reach people in Africa? Do you want all your stuff translated? Have you thought about that kind of stuff? Because mathematics is a universal language. Yeah,
it is. I want to reach Cameron Diaz. I think I've made that very clear. and absolutely anyone else who wants to be reached. It's going to be interesting because people are saying, it's quite flattering, they're saying, do brace yourself for when the talk goes online because it will be complete mayhem after that. I don't realistically know if I'd go to the States and try and conquer America with prime numbers.
Well, but why not?
Oh, you could give it a crack, but,
It's a geeky end of the universe,
It is.
It could take off.
Yeah, I had an idea of trying to be, when I explored a couple of contacts before I got over there of people who booked talent for Letterman and Jay Leno and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I wanted to go on one of those shows and explain I'd been flown halfway around the world to talk about just a number. But
they didn't pick you up.
I was met with the sort of indifference that doesn't surprise me when I look at it.
Well, not after the talk they won't. Not when it hits in July. Yeah. What about this idea of making movies and stuff out of ideas that come from mathematics?
Yeah, you look at the popularisation of science over the last decade and the popularisation of mathematics, there are some amazing and beautiful stories in the history of mathematics. I loved A Beautiful Mind, the John Nash film. It didn't go into the mathematics enough for my liking. Which is always going to be the case. But you could have...
Too much story.
Yeah. Good Will Hunting, loved it, should have been more maths. But there are beautiful stories both about what is discovered within the mathematics but also the people who make those discoveries. A famous mathematician called Galois who died in a duel over the honour of a woman and the night before was writing out, collating he's 21 years old, collating his mathematical thoughts, writing his great work and just not having time, going, look, I don't have time to prove this, trust me. And it took people decades to unravel this sort of 6 scribble pages of jargon and symbols. And that is the basis of modern group theory and solvability of equations and supersymmetry. And like 200 years later, they're still realising some things that this guy had in his head before he died in a duel at the age of 21. A tragic, amazing story, and there's characters like that all the way through.
Because mathematics is kind of data, isn't it, too? Or is that...
In some ways?
Yeah, so it's really it's like the thing of its time now. It's not that it ever really went out of fashion, but a lot of the stuff we've been talking about on the stage today,
Yes.
we've been talking about data, we've been talking about how, we reach people and how ideas have a kind of subliminal connection. Does being a mathematician help you understand that, or is it something else happening?
It does. That's the very applied end of mathematics. Statistics and crunching data is what's called applied mathematics. The physics of the world and, turn this tap on, why does the water come on? That's all very applied. The pure mathematics is the esoteric stuff that underpins that, the square root of -1 and all that. I like my mathematics, the purer the better. The less application mathematics has to the real world, the more I get excited about it. So people coming up going, wow, tell me some cool things you can do with this prime number. Not much really, but it's just fucking wonderful.
So what
it's
is that?
Gorgeous.
It's all going on in your head?
It's gorgeous.
Is that what it's about?
Yeah.
It's just exploring those abstract things that really lead to something amazing at the end?
But now is the time. I also point out that when you remember in 1997 when Garry Kasparov lost the World Chess Championships to Deep Blue, the IBM computer, it was actually the second time he'd taken it on. And this thing was like two giant servers, each larger than a human being, talking to each other, right? And a human being, the greatest player, had lost to a machine. And it was freaky stuff for us all. You can now download on your smartphone a chess app that could beat any grandmaster in the world. 15 years later, you're taking that computing power and you're carrying it around in your phone.
Look, Adam, that's fantastic. If you want to tweet him and ask some questions, please do. And that's
Adam B. Spencer is my Twitter handle. Adam B. Spencer.
And we hand over to Tim Brunero. Thank you.
Yes. Can we hear it for Adam and Jan?